Natalie Kent, and this is the Soulful Business Series. Today I have with me George Kao from San Francisco in the USA, and he is a business coach for solo spiritual entrepreneurs. He's a real standout in this field because he, well, in my words, he really gets authentic marketing in his bones, and he really connects with his audience from the place of really genuinely wanting to help them succeed. And he has an amazing approach to his business coaching work that I'm really excited to explore today. And I really want to thank you for being here, George. I'm really happy that you're here with us.
I am happy to. I've been looking forward to this conversation. That article you had about the five points about soulful business, I loved it. And so yeah, this is going to be great.
Yes, lots to explore today. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what's your approach to soulful business? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, wow. What a great question. So I find that there's kind of two definitions in my mind anyway of a soulful business. One is to do what you love, and I think that's probably what most people, that's their approach is to discover, use some process to discover what we're called to do at this time, and to do our best to actually do the work and hopefully earn a livelihood, sustainable livelihood from that work. So that's the do what you love approach to things. And then the other approach, which I think is equally valid, but maybe not talked about as much, is to love what you do. And it's sort of like, because soulful business could mean you're doing business from your soul, but it also could mean bringing soul to your existing business. And so sometimes I find people forget that, maybe like whatever they're currently doing, like the way I think about a financially viable soulful business is that it's a partnership between you, the provider of the service, and the universe. And then really the universe, when it comes to business, speaks through the market. Speaks through the market, That's how the universe is speaking in business. And so it's a partnership between hopefully your greatest strengths, your deepest joys, and the market's wants, what they are willing to pay for. It's a partnership. It's a continued dance and getting to know each other and hopefully partnering better and better over time. And so I know that you do so much work on how to discover what you love and to how to make it actually viable. So let me just take the other perspective for a moment, which is to love what you do. So if you find yourself earning money in a way right now, people are asking you for certain services or paying you for certain things. Let's just say that at this time, perhaps it is your calling at this time, because it is what the universe through the market is asking from you. And so one example is I was talking with one of my clients who she teaches hypnobirthing, and it hasn't been her passion necessarily over the years. She's been trying to get away from it and do something else, do more life coaching. Mm-hmm. And then she just come to this realization that, my gosh, the market so wants me to teach hypnobirthing. And I just, in our session, she came to this aha moment, like, wait a second, I can bring some of my passion for Reiki, some of my passion for spiritual growth into my hypnobirthing classes. Mm. Why not? Why can't I bring more of my soul into my current work? And so she's going to be doing that. And I think that more of us can consider what that might look like in whatever we're currently doing.
Wow. That's a really cool take on soul purpose in business, because I think it's something that's often overlooked, that you have to completely remove yourself from what you're doing. Right. Now, if you're not enjoying it, and do
Yeah.
something else. But often it's
Yeah.
actually a different approach or a combination that's
Yeah.
required to get you loving what you do, as you say.
Yes. Yes. Because, um, when our mind changes, when our heart set shifts, um, everything looks different. Everything feels different around us. It's that perspective. It's like putting on a different colored glasses, and suddenly we see everything differently. And
Mm,
so, while all of you are going towards doing what you love, while you're doing that, you might as well enjoy and bring
mm.
more soul into what you have to do now.
Yep, yep.
you
That's
know,
great. That's great. Such a
yeah.
salient point. Whatever you're doing now is your soul's purpose, and you're
At
on
this
your
time,
way to feeling
yeah,
more fulfilled and enjoying it. So, yeah,
absolutely.
love it.
And what's interesting is that when we bring our soul into what we're doing now, we may actually have we may actually have better information. We may get a better idea of what we actually love to do.
Mm,
And interestingly, the opportunities might show up where they didn't show up before because we kept resisting what we're doing.
mm,
So, like, when we're no longer
mm,
resisting what's currently available to us, and we accept it and we try to embrace it with our love and the light that we bring to it, that we can bring to it, the universe maybe says, hey, guess what? You passed the test.
yeah, yeah.
Here's another open door that previously wasn't available because maybe, so let's say someone's working on a job they didn't necessarily like. They now intentionally every day visualize bringing more of their love, more of their light to their coworkers and their
Mm,
customers. And what it turns out, maybe that a customer sees this new person, basically, this new spirit, and says, hey, you know what, I want you to do this for me also, or
mm.
a boss or a colleague says, gosh, you know what, I thought of something else for you. So you never know. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I like it. Stop resisting and the door's open.
Yeah.
um, and George, how does this align with your approach to true livelihood? And is that a term that you coined, true livelihood?
um I probably wasn't the first. I'm pretty sure I wasn't the first one to ever say it. But I was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Um, I was asking my audience, like, I really like the idea of right livelihood, just like the idea of it. I know it technically comes from Buddhism, and interestingly, the Buddha didn't say very much about what right livelihood was. He gave only a few rules, like, don't be dealing in intoxicants, and don't be, dealing in meat and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and selling humans or whatever. He only gave a few, like, really hardcore, rules that probably most of us don't are easy for us to live up to.
Mm,
But I just like the idea of really intentionally bringing virtue into our work. Um, and so I was asking my audience about that, and someone from my audience says, I like, what about the idea of true livelihood? Because it's
mm,
it feels better. And instead of right, which sometimes can feel, righteous or something like that. I still sometimes use the term right livelihood because people understand that.
mm,
But I do use true livelihood a lot. So my perspective on true livelihood, I think, probably similar to yours, which is, ultimately, ideally, it's doing the thing that your soul cannot not do.
mm.
Um, what your soul just must do in this life, otherwise um, you would not be fulfilled when you die. That kind of
Mm.
thing. It's like the song that must be sung.
Yes.
So ideally, true livelihood brings in that component, that you're doing that. But also, true livelihood is about bringing as much virtue into your work as possible, whatever your
Mm,
current work is. So it's, I think, both of those things ultimately.
mm. So it's about an alignment with, that calling, that deeper calling, and making money, or making money to support your life, in
Yes.
essence. Yeah. So
Right.
let's talk more about the livelihood aspect. What's your approach
Sure.
to creating a livelihood, and what's been your journey in business in that sense?
Yeah. So my journey, I'll just say it briefly, is that I started 7 years ago doing marketing training, marketing coaching, and very quickly I was uh, sucked into the world of internet marketing, which has a lot of unsavory players. There's a lot of and all of you probably have seen this to some degree or another. There's a lot of hype in online marketing. I mean, we all have encountered emails and websites and ads that scream some, you know, big audacious promise to us that sounds too good to be true. Maybe sometimes it's in big red font, flashing this and that, and we maybe sometimes feel manipulated to buy something or to do something because they use fear to say, this is the last chance that last time you'll ever see this webpage, or they use greed. Like they use some really high numbers of income we could earn easily without any effort, but most of us are of course, especially those of us in your audience, Natalie, are savvy enough to know that that's hype and manipulation. But I will tell you that having been fully in that world for several years, that stuff really works to trigger human beings into spending money.
Mm.
And it's not just in internet marketing. It's also in mainstream marketing of junk food, of whatever that's not good for humans has been marketed in ways that trigger us towards greed or craving or fear. And as a result, we are triggered to spend money. And so, unfortunately, right, a lot of the money flows in our world are going towards people who know how to use these triggers.
Yep.
And I know how to use these triggers because I learned them and I use them to some extent. I always tried to bring heart to it, but I thought that I must use these if I'm going to make money. And I got into this mindset that let me make my money first and then I'll try to be better later.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And a lot of people feel that way, whether, and maybe some of you listening to this right now, like, okay, George, I've struggled for so many years without making money. I just have to make some money first. When I feel comfortable, then I'll be more of my true self, my higher self.
Yeah, good point.
And I totally sympathize. I empathize with that, and I get it. So I did that for a few years, but I never felt right. I never felt like I was living my real life. I never felt like I was really resonating with my true calling. And so at one point, 3 years in, I found myself, I'm a solopreneur. I was able to, because I'm a time management junkie. I love studying productivity ideas. So I was doing everything in my business. I had a pretty good work-life balance. I was just working 40 hours a week, and I was making $350,000 a year, or that year I did, but it was like 200,000, 300,000. And it was more money than I've ever seen in my life prior to that. And I just couldn't do it anymore. At one point, I kind of had a bit of a breakdown, and I said, I just can't go on it. I can't go on another webinar and sell people this thing that I don't truly believe in, and sell in the way that I don't truly believe. I just can't do it anymore. And I should say that there was, of course, a leading up period to that, but there was a final point where I said, I have to stop. And so starting my 4th year, I stopped selling my group information products and coaching programs. And I started experimenting with different things. I tried some membership sites for a while because I was charging $2,000 per sale, or $19.97.
The magic number.
Yeah, right. 47s, 97s, all that stuff. So I was, so I stopped doing that. And I thought that the way I was going to go about it was basically charging a lot less money. So I felt less bad that people were spending money with me. They were spending a lot less now.
Mm.
But it was still membership sites where hundreds of people were joining, and I didn't feel like I was making a real impact, because when one person is trying to take care of 100, 200 people, it's not realistic to be able to actually personally support every person. It's not possible, especially if you want to keep a work-life balance. So and the interesting thing is, people do love to spend money on things that they really need, and this is actually an important point for all of you.
Yeah.
Don't ever feel like, oh God, I got to get people to try to buy my thing. If you work with Natalie and discover what it is that truly is your calling and what the market wants, people will be happy to spend money on it. And they actually can't wait for you to make the right offer, because they're like, that's exactly what I need, and it's a good price. Sure, let's join. So people do love spending money. So when I was charging, well, but the thing is that now I was doing a monthly membership thing, but I didn't feel fulfilled, because I felt like they were just on a monthly membership, whether it was I was charging $120 a month or $60 a month. They weren't really taking the actions that I felt made it worthwhile. So I even shut that down. And so finally, in my 6th year, I said, I'm actually just going to do one-to-one coaching now, one-to-one mentoring, one-to-one coaching. I'm going to hold one person's hand during each session, focus on them, and bring all of my experience, wisdom, tools, processes to bear on that person and to that person's journey, because every person's journey is unique. That much I've learned over 7 years. Every person's journey is unique. And so there is no formula. There is no 6 steps to 6 figures formula that's going to work for everyone. And chances are it doesn't work for someone like you, who is wanting to really bring forth the soul's calling. Because it's a formula that it's like a straitjacket. It's like, you can't fit yourself into something that is dry like that. It's got to be organic and truly you. And so I'm now technically in my 2nd year of one-to-one coaching, because I always started from the very beginning with one-to-many, and now I'm doing one-to-one. The irony of it is that some of my clients, they're called to do one-to-many stuff. They're called to do group programs. They're called to sell maybe digital information or whatever. And I support them in that, because I have a lot of experience in that. But for myself personally, and like I said, every person's journey is unique. Every person needs to understand what they are called to, what their life situation is, what their industry is calling of them, and deliver that. And right now, what my industry is calling of me is to do the one-to-one. And now that I'm in my 7th year of business, my 2nd year of doing one-to-one, I've never felt this fulfilled. I'm making a lot less money than I was before, but I am making more than enough. And that's the key, is that I think a lot of people who chase the riches, they don't define what is enough. What is truly enough, not what is enough in someone else's eyes, what the marketing is selling us, that you're not really successful unless you have a yacht and you have, 2 houses or whatever. No, what is enough for you? And I would say, and very appropriate for your audience, Natalie, what is sustainable for the earth? Just like Gandhi said, the earth can support everyone's needs. The earth cannot support everyone's greed. So the earth cannot support 7 billion people living the lifestyle of an average American. So what is enough? And I would have to say, I am always continuing to work on that. My definition of enough, hopefully, will continue to I would say right size. I would say shrink, but really right size to the Earth's carrying capacity.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So
there's so much juice in what you just told us, George. First of all, the power of your story of living a life and running a business, and then feeling that deeper misalignment, or something's off, and this this is relevant to whether people are in a day job or have a business already and there's something that feels off, and you followed that and just incrementally
Yes.
uncovered a new way of doing business, your true livelihood that fits you like a glove. And I just want
Yes.
to honor you for that, because that's brilliant, George, and that's what more people need to do. It's such a wonderful example that you set for that.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you. I feel like each of us are actually a model for the people who watch our lives.
mm,
We are a model not just for our kids. That definitely is true. If we have kids, we're not just a model for our nephews and nieces and the other sort of younger generation in our life. We are actually a model for each other. We're a model for all of our Facebook friends. We're a model for all of our LinkedIn contacts. We're a model for everyone who comes in touch with us, because when you do something, you give permission to other people who see you do that thing to be more courageous in doing it.
Yep.
And so I decided to take a stand and stop doing what I called lizard brain marketing, which is to trigger the basest instincts in humanity's evolution, the fear, the craving, the greed. And I even though that stuff made tons of money and worked, I'm going to stop triggering that. And I'm going to try to evoke us toward the higher places of love, generosity, service. And yes, I won't have as big of an audience. I won't have the ravenous hunger of buying for my stuff, but hopefully I'll have a more grounded, centered audience who also are yearning for the higher places of their higher self, to let that come through. And when I model that, all I can do is live my life and run my business, because when I do that, I give you all more permission to do that.
Brilliant, George. And, every single person has that opportunity to model something, and to ask that question, what am I modeling? And what I love about you is that you share so openly about your story, your approach, where you stand. And it's in the sharing that it reaches so many people. And that's very much the essence of sacred business as well, is that you must share your gifts, you must share your stories to create that ripple effect.
Yes.
And that's another key of true livelihood, isn't it? It's, what ripple effect are you creating with your actions in your life, in your business, and trusting that there is a ripple effect.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's a great point, because sometimes, especially when we're doing marketing or we're on social media, let's say you post something on Facebook and there are crickets. There are no likes for days. And you sometimes wondering, well, no one's listening. But the truth of the matter is, there are people watching and listening. Almost certainly, every time you post something on Facebook or send an email to your list, or share something online, someone is being touched. I can almost guarantee you that.
Yep.
Unless you're sending it to no one. If you're sending it to someone or posting it online, someone is being touched, even if they don't comment. Posting it on your blog. If you look at your web analytics, your stats, and if you're getting at least one visitor to your blog post, someone is being touched. And so this may sound strange, but what if someone was called to this life? Their mission was to touch one person. What if someone's mission in this life, in this incarnation, is to somehow touch one person, who then goes on, because of the brilliance of the universe's plan, that one person who was touched goes on to touch 10,000 influencers. It could be true for you. And so when I think about that, I am so happy to share, because I know that when I share something, I don't care if no one likes it or something, I may have touched that one person I'm meant to touch in this life.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition to that, you speaking the words or writing the words changes the consciousness. It's like seeding a new way of being that actually
Mm.
does touch people, whether it may be completely intangible and we may never know. And that's something actually that's come out of this particular interview series that I'm doing, is I've realized that it's not about how much reach each interview gets. It's actually about the chemistry that's created from you and I speaking on this call that seeds something new.
Yes.
It's us
Brilliant.
coming together, and every time I finish an interview, I feel like I've just had another light bulb go off, or my consciousness has been expanded and I go on a different tangent in my work, and
Yeah.
more expanded approach.
Right.
And that has an impact on me alone, let alone the people who watch this.
Yes. And the impact on you are part of the world, right? So literally when you change, the world changes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. It's far more powerful than the likes you see or the comments you get. There's so
yeah.
much going on that we can't see.
And I'll have to also add to that what I've discovered is when you share consistently, you discover who you really are.
Yes.
And this is one of the things that I've been talking about lately, is that sometimes we think, I've got to discover myself, I've got to understand my soul's calling, and then I'll start to share, and then I'll start to write, do videos or something like that. But I've discovered, and I hope you all will really take this to heart and consider this, when you write, and especially publicly, when you share whatever you already have, whatever you already understand at your current level of consciousness, when you start to share that publicly, you'll find a powerful force that helps you discover what your authentic voice is, what your best ideas are. And if you do that consistently, at least, like for example, right now I'm on a project to do a 4-minute video Monday through Fridays. And I've been doing that now for almost 2 months. And what's interesting, that it took about a month and a half until I started to see traction. Like I'm actually gaining some loyal fans of my 4-minute videos. It took a month and a half, which meant almost 30 videos later did I then start to get like one loyal fan, And so do not lose heart. Do the content for your soul's exploration. If you are true to yourself, and of course, try to keep it digestible, make it a shorter video or make it a shorter post. Keep exploring, keep sharing, because it's your love. You are going to start, and you do it consistently, you're going to start seeing some traction. So.
Yes, so true. It's very much about consistency and following your own intuition about, okay, what to post and when, because that gives it power. It's not just coming from the mind, then it's actually coming from a deeper urge to create something. And it's something that I really admire about you, George, because you are the most prolific creator of free content I've seen in business, certainly in the realm of business. If anyone out there hasn't come across George's content that he publishes almost every day, you really ought to, because there's such valuable gems in there that you can apply now in your business, really practical techniques that can bring results.
Thank you.
And yeah, I love that. And so tell us a little bit more about that approach and how that evolved, that wanting to offer so much for free to your audience and then getting paid for a limited amount of your time.
Yeah, so I call it limiting the commercializations of our relationships. Because previously I was of the mindset, which a lot of marketers are, and a lot of business owners are, that everything I do during my working day must have an ROI. It must have a return on investment. I'm not going to talk to someone unless I'm not going to come on this interview unless I'm able to make an offer. I'm not going to help someone unless they are a prospective client or they can refer business to me. And I get it, because I was there for several years. And but it's stressful. It's because I'm always looking to, it's, I'm always, I'm always in a place of grasping.
Yes.
And when I change my mindset to be, as much as possible, to be in the place of open-handed giving, and how can I help? And here's important, because I know that a lot of people watching this, listening to this, probably tend in the direction of generosity and helpfulness, and wonder, gosh, George, of course I love helping and being generous, and caring for others, but how do I not burn out? How do I still have enough of a viable business? And so let me speak to that a bit. It is important to look at your time and see how in your time you are both generously, open-heartedly giving without a need for return, without posting valuable ideas on social media and not needing likes or comments or new clients to come out of it or whatnot. Now, there is of course going to be a mid to long-term return on your investment. Of course there is, but don't even expect it in the short term. Just like you said, don't expect to see it in a way that you can see it soon. It may somewhere down the road. Just let it be down the road. Let it happen. But you also need to look at a part of your day or a part of your week where you do spend time in, I call it enrollment. Some people call it sales. Some people call it lead generation. Some people call it prospecting. I'm just going to use the word enrollment because you're enrolling them into your livelihood, your true livelihood. And this is a really important distinction. It used to be that everything I did, even when I was giving free content or doing a free webinar, it had the guise of being generous, but really my secret ulterior motive was, I hope I get some clients out of this, and soon. Okay. So there was a sales overlay over everything.
Yep.
And some of you may be taught or coached to go in that direction, that everything you should do should have some way of bringing you clients. What I prefer now and what I teach is to let it be a separation. To have time in your week where you are simply exploring your soul's calling publicly and generously giving your gift as a result of not wanting it and not wanting anything back. And you need some time in your week or day or month where you are doing enrollment activities. Enrollment activities, there are many of them. But for example, when was the last time you clearly shared with your warm contacts what you do and that you have openings for clients?
Yeah.
I mean, really, the thing is, we think that all of our friends and colleagues and family know what we do, and if they're not referring people to us, it's just because they don't care. Or no, it's not that. It's that everyone is busy living their life and thinking about themselves. And only when they see something from someone they care about, which is what I consider a warm contact. A warm contact is someone when they get your email. If you send an email to someone, they immediately recognize your name and they feel some kind of warmth towards you. I call that a warm contact. So when was the last time you told your people you felt comfortable contacting, basically, that, hey, Bob, it's been a while. Please reply. Let me know how you're doing. Let me just share with you what's going on with me right now. I am, maybe share something personal, but also say, in my business, in my career, I'm doing this work, which I love so much. And I'm basically looking for people who are going through these kinds of challenges or trying to get this kind of thing. I'm looking for this particular kind of person. I would love it if you can keep me in mind next time you meet someone like that, to send them to me, because I'd love to help them however I can. And if they're right to be a client, I'd love to have them as a client too. So just something as simple as that. If you did that once every 6 months, once every 3 to 6 months with all of your warm contacts, you probably would get referrals right now. So that's one example of enrollment that is sort of still heartfelt, still collaborative, still giving,
Yeah, I love it. It's so, but it is a real paradigm shift from the conventional way of business of, you know, whatever you put out there, you need to be selling something and actively selling something.
Yes.
And this is something I've come to learn as well myself, is all you have to do is just share what you know, and
Yes.
at the same time have an offering that's available, and just let
Yeah.
people know that there is an offering that is open. You know, it's on the table. It's not a hard
Yes.
sell. There's no
Yeah.
force involved. It's just
Yes.
letting people know it's information.
Right.
Yeah,
Because if they don't know, they will never have the chance
that's it.
to say yes, because
Yeah.
your ideal clients are actually looking for a service provider like you. I mean, I'm not saying that as an ideal thing, but really, as an example, one time I was on a free webinar, and this person I was listening to could actually be a service provider for me, but he seemed so timid about offering his thing that he seemed guilty about talking about what he does. Like he it was a free webinar, so he tried to give all this great advice, but he was very timid and like shy about saying what he does. And I'm like, gosh, does he really like what he does? Is he really excited to work with me? You know, it made me doubt. But if he had instead said at the beginning of the webinar, hey, I'm going to give you some great free advice here. And actually, for those of you who are looking for a service provider like me who does this kind of thing, stay tuned, because I will tell you how you can work with me at the end. Like, just really proud and just say, I know you're looking for me and I'm looking for you. So I'll talk about it at the end, but let me just give you some free advice first for others who may or may not want my service yet. And so like at the end, it's like, all right, for those of you who've been waiting to hear about my services, here's how I do it. Here's what I do. So turn it around. Don't be so shy. Talk honestly and openly to the right people. And I love that you said you got to make the offering, at least people know about it. One more thing I'll say is this. When I give in my free giving time, okay, in my free helping time, I do my best to do it in a one-to-many way. Remember I said that I used to sell programs that were one-to-many, you know, 300 people in a group coaching program at the same time or something like that, which I did at one time, 350 people at the same time. I was like, now I'm like, how could I possibly have served them well? You know, now I have that perspective. Back then I didn't. So now what I do is when I serve for free, I do my best to do one-to-many. So when I post something on Facebook, 100 people could benefit from that video. And it doesn't cost me another minute to serve another 1,000 people on that video, because I'm not, I just made that video once.
Yeah.
If I'm answering a question, I prefer to answer it in my free public Facebook group so that everyone else who's following that free public Facebook group can benefit from that answer. Or if I'm doing a group coaching call, which I now do for free once a month, I invite people to come to my free group coaching call. And I let them know the replay is going to be available on YouTube to benefit lots of other people, you know. So I do a free helping one-to-many. And I make it clear to people that I earn my income through one-to-one private interaction. So when I make that clear, people aren't trying to pick my brain in private, because they know that that's what I do for a living. Or at least if they do that, I have 1 hour in my week where part of that 1 hour is responding to emails from people who are not my clients, who may never be my clients, who are trying to pick my brain in private. And I honor that, but here's the key for all of you who are caretakers naturally. Put such requests in a folder and know that you are not responsible for responding right away. You respond at a time of your convenience and a time where you can be balanced. So I have a bunch of emails in my optional response folder from people who want to pick my brain in private, and I welcome them to email me. And I will respond to them when I get to it, you know, in my 1 hour a week. And sometimes it may take me a few weeks to respond to someone, and they're still grateful. And sometimes it takes me a few days, sometimes it takes me a few weeks, but I'll get to it eventually. That allows me then to be balanced in my life so that I'm doing my enrollment activities certain times, I'm serving one-to-many for free at other times, and I'm helping for free in a very limited time each week. So
very intelligent use of time you have, George. Very impressive. And God, we could do a whole interview on that, because it's
right.
so important.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
something that you said, which ties back to something you said earlier in the conversation about when you were selling products at the $2,000 mark,
Yes.
and you felt bad about it, so you reduced your prices to see if you'd
Right.
feel better about selling a less
Yeah.
expensive product. That's a really key point, because I find that a lot of people, especially conscious people like you and me and our audience, they collapse into their pricing because they're not
Yes.
feeling 100% solid in what they're offering. Because I know from
Yes.
my own experience for sure, and that of my clients, is when you do feel solid, the pricing is not an issue. You stand in your pricing very solidly,
Yes.
and with confidence, and knowing that you're offering a very valuable service. Um,
Yes.
so what's been your experience around pricing in
Okay.
particular in this way?
I will say that there is. I recently came up with a tool that will help service providers price themselves more intelligently. It's a free tool that comes with a 4-minute video describing how I use it, and I'll send a link to you, Natalie, if you want to
Great.
include it in the notes for this interview. I welcome people to really go there first. So I'm not going to say how to price, because that video and tool will say everything. But in terms of, well, I'll give you from my example. So I sold these $2,000 programs for several years, and I sold a lot of people into them. And eventually I felt so bad because I saw so few results, because people loved buying them, but they weren't really doing anything with. A lot of people weren't doing much with it, because guess what? They didn't have the one-to-one accountability and support to do it. And there were thorns and, along the way that they couldn't navigate, or difficult paths along the way they could navigate on their own. And so I reduced the price, and I still found the same thing. People loved buying it, but they weren't doing as much. So guess what? Now I actually charge $3,000 now, but it's one-to-one with me. And so I feel, actually, Natalie, it's interesting. I feel like they're getting such a great deal. And it's not just me saying that. My peers and even my clients who know my industry saying, George, you are way undercharging for the kind of service you're providing. You should be charging at least $6,000, if not $10,000, for the kind of package you're giving, the kind of experience you have, the kind of attention you give, and all that stuff. And so right now, even though I'm charging more money, quote unquote, than before, I feel like it's such a great deal. So like you said, I stand so firmly in this service because I feel like they're getting a great deal. It's supporting my life right now. And it's a win-win for everyone, So,
Such a
yeah.
different experience, isn't it? And it makes you realize that
Yes.
the actual price tag becomes irrelevant in a sense. It's not about what anyone else says you're undercharging or overcharging or whatever. It's
Right.
actually about how you feel about what you're offering, what you're charging for it. And
Yes.
when you have that resonance, your clients feel it too, don't they? The people who
Yeah.
end up enrolling with you, because they feel good,
Mhm.
because you feel good.
Yes, absolutely. It has to be a win-win all around. It has to be, if you put yourself in their perspective, you think, yeah, that's a good deal. And then you have to put yourself in your own shoes, look at your own expenses, look at the time that you're spending on things, look at, also very importantly, um, how many vacation weeks you're going to take per year. I say this
Mm,
especially to your audience, Natalie, of people who tend to be generous givers and caretakers, that you may not, some of you aren't consciously carving out breaks during the year where you take time off. A vacation is not just some kind of luxurious, thing that people who are lazy do.
mm,
You know, I take plenty of vacations each year, but not. I don't necessarily. I don't actually travel very much because I'm so like green minded. So like even my vacations are mostly here, like in my in my local park.
yeah.
But it's important to take breaks, to have a change of pace, a change of environment, even occasionally, so that you can stay renewed or be renewed and stay creative, so that you don't burn out.
Yep.
So
Yep. Very, very important. And please do check out George's spreadsheet on calculating your ideal price, or what it takes at a minimum to support
Yes.
your life. I think it's a really
Yes.
important calculation to make.
Yeah.
So George, I wanted to just delve into another topic that I know you're quite experienced in, that is of relevance to this audience as well, around wisdom and wisdom entrepreneurs, or wisdompreneurs as they've now coined that term, but we won't go there. So, you know, this is referring to people who are basically selling their knowledge, their skills, their insights, for the benefit of helping others become better people or master certain aspects of their life. So when it comes to selling or marketing your wisdom, packaging your wisdom and making that business viable, what's your advice, or what's been your experience in that domain?
Oh gosh. Well, I basically have 7 years of experience doing that full time, because I sold my own wisdom, my own information, but also most of my clients are coaches, speakers, authors, you know. Okay. So the thing about it is there are several models at it to go about doing that. One model is to sell the information. So you can package your webinars, you can package your videos, you can package your audios, your worksheets, your writings into something that you can then price it at, you know, anywhere between $50 to $1,000. Okay, if it's just information. And it's got to be valuable information that you feel really good about selling, that you know that if people applied it, they will get results at it. So that's one model. And then another model is a totally different model, which is what I'm doing now, is to sell my time. You know, funny thing is, I used to teach people, don't trade your hours for dollars. You know, you got to have a leveraged model and sell one to many. I now want to trade my dollars for hours, and I give away all my information. Okay. Now there is also a middle path, which is to do a bit of both. So you can sell information that comes with some kind of support, whether that support happens in a one-to-one level or that support happens in a group level. So you first have to clarify what sort of model you want to follow there, what feels right to you, what your needs are, okay, and what your industry seems to want. Now, in terms of the getting visibility, doing the outreach part of it, because you are selling wisdom, you need to first demonstrate that you have wisdom.
Yeah, good point.
Right? It's like at the farmer's market. I go to the farmer's market every weekend and I look at, you know, strawberries, right? They're in season right now. Well, before I buy, you know, 3 baskets of strawberries, it's really nice to be able to taste it, to see if these strawberries are sweet or not. And I like the taste of it. So if there are 2 stands, and this is actually true, right? There are 2 stands of fruit, strawberries. One stand is very obviously having their sample out there, and one stand doesn't have a sample basket out. They probably would allow me to taste the sample, but the one that has the sample basket out, obviously I'm going to go there and taste it because it's easy, it's right there. So you've got to allow your samples and sweet samples to be out there, so people go, wow, this is delicious, and I really benefit from this. What else does this person have? And of course, just like you said, Natalie, you've got to make it clear that you have an offering. It's not that I can eat strawberries from the stand forever, like eat as much as I want.
Yeah. They
have a price there to say, all right, enjoy these samples, and if you want to buy, it's $10 for 3 baskets or whatever it may be, right? So one more thing I'll say, and then I'll let you ask whatever else is, so when it comes to the samples, you can give samples in one of, let's just say 4 ways, or let's say 5 ways. One is through writing. So blogging, all of you know probably what that means. You know, Natalie, you have a great blog because you do well in writing. I'll say the juxtaposition is that I don't actually love to blog. Okay. So we have got to each find our way of offering samples that we enjoy and that really is natural to our strengths. So there's writing, which is blogging or writing a book and publishing it on Kindle, or writing an ebook and having it as a PDF on your website. Okay. So that's text. There's audio, which is podcasting, is very popular these days. On iTunes, you can upload a podcast. If you have a decent artwork, decent, titles, you can get into new and noteworthy without much effort. And iTunes has tens of millions of people looking for good podcasts every month. So that's the audio. It's like online radio. So that's the audio. If you just love to record speaking into a mic. Third method is through video. If you don't mind being on video, and I'll tell you, I spent the first 4 years of my business being extremely shy about video. I didn't like how I looked, how I sounded. And finally, somehow I broke through. I was forced to do some video for someone. And people liked it. And so I said, hey, you know what? Even though I don't like how I look, other people are okay with it. So I'm going to keep doing it. And now I love being on video. It's like you can't get me off of video. And so video is the third method. You upload short videos to Facebook. You can upload short and long ones to YouTube and other ways. The fourth way is through pictures, images. Some of you love taking photos. You can share your photos with some wisdom on it. There's a free tool called Pablo, which is buffer.com/Pablo. And it's a free tool. You can just upload your photo and you put some of your wisdom on there and share it as info, as pictures on Facebook and other social media channels and your blog. And then the fifth way is through in-person speaking. Some of you love doing in-person speaking. And so you've got to be focused and be putting your speakers page on your website, be contacting different venues and different groups to speak. So just as a general overview, try out all these 5 different methods, see which one you love, see how you can come up with a rhythm of doing it that you love. So for example, I discovered that I don't like writing. I love doing videos now, but I had to find a rhythm of doing videos that was natural for me. And so I somehow discovered that I go on a daily walk with my dog. And during that walk, Buddy is off. I let him in an area where he's off leash, running around playing. And usually I'm just kind of standing there or looking at my phone or something like that. And I thought one day, why don't I just pull out a video and record some ideas for my ideal audience, some tips, some advice. And I uploaded that. And people loved it. And so I said, oh my gosh, I've now found my natural rhythm. I'm going to go on the dog walk anyway. So I might as well just record a video while I'm on the dog walk, talking about different things. So that's become my natural rhythm. And then when I recorded the video, I realized that I always think about the golden rule. What would I like other people to do to me? And I try to do that to other people. So I'm like, I don't necessarily want to watch a 4-minute video that someone else does, but if they give me a written summary, I might want to read that real quick, or then maybe I'll watch it. So I said, I'm going to be courteous to my audience. So after I do the video, I'll just type on my phone a written summary of what I just said. And I just it was easy for me to do that. It's kind of like texting someone, or emailing on my phone. So I did that. And then now some people in my audience are saying, George, I love your videos, but actually I love the writing that you summarize the video for.
Yeah.
So ironically, they've become short blog posts, but I couldn't do it at my computer because I felt too intimidated. But I found a way to write in a way that was natural to me. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think you raise a really good point that it's about putting your best foot forward when you choose your medium to share your wisdom or your knowledge on something. But in your case, and I can relate to that, I hated doing videos so much when I first started, and I'm still finding.
You're great on video.
Thank you. It wasn't smooth sailing at all when I first started, and but it just shows that even whatever that medium is for you, it's not necessarily going to come really easily straight up.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yes,
so,
if you believe in that medium, and the very least you should do is at least show some of your colleagues and friends and ask them, hey, do you think this might be a medium for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And bottom line is that you are sharing what you know, you are sharing your wisdom. Especially if you're a wisdom entrepreneur, then you have to show people that you are wise. So there's a lot of wise people out there who are sitting on their wisdom. And so that's a really, really good point, is you have to find your way of getting it out of you, getting it out there so that other people can respond and show you what the real world value is of that wisdom.
Brilliant. Absolutely right. And if any of you ever feel like I used to feel that, oh, whatever I'm going to say, someone else has already said it. You know, it's already out there. Why do I have to add to the
Yep.
mix? The truth about it is that human beings are amazingly, we have short-term memory. You know, we forget every day.
We need
And
reinforcement.
we need reminders and
Yeah.
repetition every
Yeah.
day. And so whatever you have to share, even if someone else has already said it, you need to say it to your people because they need to hear it again and again and again. If it's an important message, they need to hear it again and again and again. If it's really important, they need to hear it just about every day. If it's just semi-important, they need to hear it every month. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, George, you are a wealth of wisdom yourself, and I love that you share it so freely, and that you're such a shining example of that for our communities. And I want to thank you so much for being part of this series. I could talk to you so much longer, but we have run out of time. So thank you for just being you.
Oh, Natalie, thank you so much. I actually am looking forward to, I didn't even know that you had other speakers before this, so I'm looking forward to listening and watching the other talks as well.
Oh, great.
Thank you for
Yes.
doing it.
I hope you do. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
George. And lots of love to you on the other side of the world.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.